Hey everyone, this is Mike over at Boogie Games. Wanted to talk about some game dev techniques. Specifically, how are we implementing Unity events in order to reuse code? And as you know, we always want to reuse code. It saves a lot of time and makes the system your application more efficient. Also, it's better to generalize your code to be able to be used anywhere, right? You want to make the code so that it can be attached to any game object and the game object runs on itself. It does not depending on anything else. It just runs by itself. That's the goal that we want. I'll show you an example. Let me show you an example. Here we have a boss, right? And the bosses usually have patterns, especially in old school games. Remember shoot 'em up games and all that, Nintendo games and all that. All the bosses and mini bosses have patterns, and you always want them to figure out. And players and users love patterns because it makes it easy for them to beat the game and to figure things out. It's like a puzzle, correct? So that's the goal that we want with this game. So how can we do this without rewriting the code all of the time? For every boss, I don't want to rewrite the code. Like I say, boss, move to this position X, move to this position Y, move to this position Z. I don't want to rewrite that code over and over again, especially if we have to adjust things all the time. Because when you're testing a game, you want to make it fun, correct? So we have to make it in a way where it's fun for the player, easy enough for them to beat, but hard enough for them to give them a challenge. So in order to do this, we're using Unity Events. Unity Events, we use it everywhere over here in Boogie Games, especially when we're using the Unity game engine. We use it for inputs, we use it for moving objects around, all that stuff. And it's great because you're not polling it all the time. Basically, the Unity Events is a design pattern, right? And so objects subscribe to a message, and then whoever's sending the message send the message to them, and when they get that message, they run whatever method your or algorithm that you wanted to run. So let's get to the example already. Here we have a boss, and as you can see here, the boss has 5 components, right? The AI system, which runs everything. The event handler, this is a script when the boss hits something or collides with something, what do you want it to run, right? And so this is the life system that I made. Not made, wrote the code. And what the life system does is keeps track of the boss's hit points. So now if the boss's hit points hits below a certain threshold, what are we gonna run? What is it gonna happen? Okay, so the boss is gonna explode when it dies. It's gonna create a explosion particle effect, and then it's gonna give the player some points and then it's gonna go to the next stage. Correct? All right, and then we have the enemy weapon system. It just shoots the basic weapons, and then we have an enemy special weapon system, which shoots special weapons. So let's get down to the real nitty gritty of the scripts. Okay, so the AI systems runs everything, right? So what we did was we created an interface, and now the interface, what the interface does is it allows us to create more objects using its basic methods, right? And it allows us to reuse code, but at the same time, we are going to make it. So as you see here, we have the AI system, and the AI system uses an array of interfaces, right? And the interfaces in C# just says, hey, this is a class, and we want to use these methods. But every time somebody derives from that class, the methods are going to change. It's going to be different for everybody. But I want to call the same name methods all the time, so it makes it easier for programming. Correct? And as you see here, we have an array. We have 2 arrays, one called global sequences and one called event sequences. The reason why I have 2 arrays is because the global system, I want them to run all of the time, no matter what. An event system is the actual pattern. So let's look at the event system. So we have one interface called AI move to position. So this interface moves the boss to some position, X, Y, and Z, sets the rotation, how fast, move what, because we wanted to move the actual a boss, and I call the boss the deep end, right? And we have these methods, like I talked, what I said. And here we have the methods derived from the interface, which is on event, on run event, and on end. As you see here, when the boss actually reaches that certain position, I wanted to run a specific method, and that's the actual Unity event that we want to run. Okay, and here it says when it's done, I want it to step to the next array index, and this is the next one. And I want it to move to this position, and once that position is done, we do it. So I also wanted to say when it's running, I wanted to shoot the special weapon system as it running. So let's actually take a look at it. All right, so. As you see here, the boss is actually moving around and shooting. Let's put it on, okay. All right, system. Object. Alrighty. All right. This is YouTube. YouTube upload. Description. Okay. This is great. This is wonderful. Love it. Love it! Oh, that tree is thick. That one's still skinny. But that one's thick. It needs to be thick.